This is the Budget and Finance Committee. Today is Wednesday, September 28th. It is now 7:10. Before we begin, if you can all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Joining me today, we have Councilor Gregory De Rosario from District D, Councilor at Large Ana Levy, Council President Mark LaPlante, and myself, Pavel Payano, as Chair. Before we begin, I'll read the following. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee is being conducted both in person and via remote participation. A reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may either attend in person at the location above or use any of the following access locations on Facebook, YouTube, or our Zoom. Councilors, there are no minutes for council approval, so we'll move to our first item, which is item 316-22, Lawrence Retirement COLA base increase, being presented by Gina Rizzo, the Executive Director. Good evening.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Gina Rizzo. I am the current director of the Lawrence Retirement Board. I'm here tonight with board member Cheryl Wright, Diane Cockcroft, and former board member Kevin Laughlin, who takes a vested interest in this. He, was on the board for many years and wants to see this hopefully pass. Thank you for hearing us tonight. So a little history on the current cost of living base, which is currently set at $12,000, meaning a retiree only receives a cost of living increase on the first $12,000 of their pension. So it's not like Social Security where they get a raise and it's on the entire earnings. It's only on the first $12,000. So they only receive a maximum raise of $30. What raising the COLA base to $14,000 would do would give them an additional $5 a month. We understand that it is an impact to the city. Our fund right now is a fund that was put together, or comprised of money that our retirees put in every, while they were employees. It's also a fund that our current employees put into, and it's basically a trust fund that's their money. So we've seen great market gains in the last, couple years, as everyone has, and we're hoping that our retirees consider favorably looking at that and giving them a raise for this. A little history, we've had the same COLA base for 24 years, so that's a very long time. May of 1998 was when the last COLA base increase happened. It was raised from $9,000 to $12,000. Chapter 188, Acts of 2010, allowed for municipal retirement boards along with governmental legislative bodies to approve a $1,000 increment in this up to a maximum of $18,000. Back in 2013, our board did approach the council, tried to have it passed. We wanted to do $1,000 up to a maximum of $15,000, $1,000 per year, and it didn't pass. So this is the first time we've come before you. And part of the reason is along the Commonwealth, there are about 103 local retirement boards, and this year alone, 29 boards have voted to, along with their legislative bodies, have voted to increase their COLA base because inflation is hitting our retirees hard. It's hitting everyone hard, but our retirees are on a fixed income. We have approximately, I think it was 54% of our retirees are under $30,000. And that's, it's not going to grow. It's going to grow $30 a month, that's it. So giving this to them would give them $5 extra a month. So we're really hoping that, you guys would consider doing this for them. Do you have any questions? Or?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Rizzo, so how did you set on the $5 a month?
So it's $5 a month per person. Basically, every 1,000 increment is a $2.50 raise per month. So it's a percentage on that. So it's 3% capped at $12,000. So if we do this, it'll be 3% capped at $14,000, which would be approximately $35 per month. It'll be exactly $35 per month. And that's only for the people that are making $12,000. We have retirees that are under $12,000. We have retirees that make $6,000, $7,000. I did do a chart, I don't know if your secretary, we have 166 retirees that have a pension under $12,000. So those people will only get 3% of their salary.
And what does the total amount per year look like?
The cost per year for a pension or like on our payroll, of what it's gonna do? What did I do here? It'll add approximately $4,253 to our monthly payroll. Well, 48, almost 50,000, maybe, approximately.
Councilors, are there any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Levy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, okay, the COLA increase that you are talking about, so it's completely different from the government, because I heard that it's going to be an increase, some increase now in this month, in October, starting January the 2023. It's completely different, both?
Sure, so right now, the state approved, I believe it's the teacher's retirement and the state retirement, a 5% cost of living. And when it went up to the legislative body to approve it for local adoption, they did change the language. So if we ever wanted to do that, we'd have to come before you again for that. So we couldn't raise it ourselves up to 5%. We'd have to come before you again. The maximum we can raise it right now is, per the statute, is 3,000, is 3%, yes. Sorry, I'm so not good.
Yes, they do the increase, you have to come back in front of us again?
Yes. This is just for the base. Like I said, we had, there's 103 roughly, or 102 boards across the state. There's only 13 of us who are still at 12,000.
Okay,
So-
thank you so much.
Okay, sure.
Councilors, any other questions? Council President LaPlante?
That's it? That's it? To the person that needs a gallon of milk, maybe. It's horrible, and we're begging for this, honestly, for our retirees. And I get it, costs the city money, but so the city appropriates a portion of money towards us, and it's a good chunk of money towards us every year. And it's just they have to, but we have level funded that or dropped the amount that the city has put into our fund to help the city, because we know that the city is, always has a little bit of a fiscal struggle in Lawrence, and we've lowered that appropriation for the city. Our next funding schedule, we dropped the entire appropriation about $300,000. Always helping the city. So the city's gaining from our funds investments, our market investments, the pensioners and the people, the employees, the city's benefiting from it. So it's time our retirees see some of this too. They're the ones that are struggling. They're on a fixed income. And they were all city employees at one time.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the testimony and comments. And it's hard to put your mind around how someone's going to be doing better at $5, but we do have with us this evening capital. He puts together the budget. I'm about to put them on the spot. Are you prepared? Yes. If you're not, that's fine. We can talk afterwards. But I just want to make sure that the city was mentioning about the city benefiting from this. I just wanted to get some perspective from you.
I can summarize the city's position here. I'm well aware of the cost of living increase that they're seeking, but there's a few things that need to be just stated. I don't think this is an unreasonable request. Let me just preface by that. However, when many of these retirees were hired by the city, they had a deal, which is if you work X number of years, you get a pension of X amount. That pension didn't include cost of living increases. So the problem is that now when we grant cost of living increases, it will add to our budget because we can't go back and deduct it from the employee and increase their payroll deductions. So in this particular case, it will be a maximum of $360 per retiree, and it'll now go up to $420. That's a difference of $60 per year per retiree. That $60 sounds very small, but it will add $600,000 to our appropriation, because actuarially, the actuary, it's in your documents, I just looked at it. The actuary did calculate, hey, increasing the cost of living from 12 to 14, actuarially, that'll be $604,000 in our next year's appropriation. So even though it's only $60, there's a lot of people out there. And there's a lot of people that get a very small pension. But some of those small pensions are because they only worked a short period of time. Some of them because they made a low amount and they're elderly and they deserve something, but there's a whole mix in there. You know, I don't think this is unreasonable. I think there's also in your packet the other communities who have this increase. There's many communities who are at 12,000 still, then there's 13, 14, and they can go all the way to 18. So I don't think this is unreasonable, but it is going to cost us $600,000 next year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, CAFO. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, so just a quick question on that statement. So the last document where it says normal cost, 107,000, that's what, if this doesn't pass, that's what it would cost the city?
No, Mark's right, it does change the appropriation. We had an actuary do an assessment, which everyone does across the state when they're doing this. And you have to take into effect, too, these numbers change every time we do an actuary. We have to do an actuarial every 2 years. And every 2 years it changes. And what happens is generally, you know, depending on how the market's doing, depending on how your fund is doing, you know, the appropriation is set. And the board sets it, and we could, you know, bury this somehow in the appropriation in a couple of years. So Mark's right, but we change it. Just like this year, we did our appropriation, and we saved the city $300,000. So yes, we're going to add another 300 approximately doing this, not 600, because we just saved the city 300, but then in a couple of years it can change. So, I mean, it's always going to be there. I mean, and, you know, we can be the city that never does it for our retirees, and Mark's right, we didn't promise them this, but every single city and town is being faced with this, and they're all going before their local bodies, and they're begging for the retirees to get a raise.
Okay, thank you. If I can ask the CAFO a question. Sorry to have you stand up again. What is if this doesn't pass, what will be the cost? Or do you know what the cost will be for the city?
Yeah, this $600,000 we wouldn't be paying. This is the estimate if this approved. If this gets approved, the actuaries went in and calculated, okay, from now till all the retirees, what is, if we give them $14,000 instead of $12,000, what will the impact be to our annual appropriation? And right now, that's $600,000. So it'll be $600,000. The $600,000 we won't have to pay if we keep the status quo. That's the general
Okay.
gist.
Yep,
of
I
it.
think I understand now.
Yep.
Ms. Rizzo, what's the difference between, so again, to the, I'm just trying to understand
Yep,
how
sure.
you settle on the 14,000 instead of 13 or 15 or even 16. You mentioned it's $5 a month, or $60 for the year.
Yep.
So why did you guys settle on that number?
Because we felt we were gonna just go for the 13,000, and we did that 9 years ago. So these pensioners have been leveled at 12 for another 9 years. So we just figured, to be honest, we thought if we'd come in, try to get them the 14, and if maybe you guys would settle for 13 or just something to feel, you know, like we gave them something.
Understood. Sorry, CAFO, just one last question. Apologies. What?
If I just may disclose it, we all have an interest in this being increased. Everybody's pension will be increased. So I mean, but I have a responsibility to the city to, this is the cost. So it is $600,000. It's not as cheap as it is as you think. And also, if we knew that this was the cost, would the amount that we're taking out of employees' paychecks increase slightly? Yeah, probably should be. But so that's the dilemma here.
Listen, I appreciate the fact that you are always trying to save us money. So that's, you wouldn't, yeah. So thank you for that. So my question is, where would this money be coming from? Did you guys, so let's say.
Part of our budget. Yeah, it's an increase to our operating budget next year, because we get an assessment. The actuarial value of this retirement assessment we're required to pay annually, and they calculate it. And because of our forefathers never put any money in the pension plan, the past service cost is about 18 million bucks, and our normal cost is the normal cost for the existing retired employees is only a couple million bucks. So once we get our retirement 100% funded, our appropriation will go from 20 million down to 2 million, so somewhere around there is from the last appropriation. And then what we'll do is take that 18 million and start funding our OPEB liability, which we've never paid towards. So it'll never really come back in the budget for a while. But this 600,000, not in 23, but in 24, evidently, we will get, if this passes, we'll have to come up with a little bit more next year in our operating budget to make sure that the retirement system is fully funded by the year 2036.
Do you have an idea of how many retirees we have?
I'm sure they do.
Approximately 930.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand how we get to 600,000. So if it's $60 per person and we have about 1,000,
Well,
how?
if you have to be an actuary, you know what actuaries, they got all this crazy math, it's your age, date of, the age of all the people in the system, what are their life expectancies, so this $60 is, so they have some math, they're math wizards at trying to come up with, well, what will the actual cost be, how much do we have to put away to have enough to pay this? And that's where the 600,000 comes from. So an actuary would have to explain the calculations.
This is a one-time payment?
No, this will be annual.
Okay. All right.
Chairman as well, I know Mark brought up the funding schedule.
Come to the mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Our 2020 funding schedule for the overall, what we charged, opposed to 2022, which is going to take effect in 2023, we are saving the city as a whole, all of our units, a total of $322,000. The board did that by reducing the funding schedule, so it does absorb, almost half of that 600,000. So,
Okay, thank you. I don't know, CAFO, is there something on the city side about those savings?
Yeah, I don't think, again, from the city's perspective, I mean, this is something, I don't think this is an unreasonable request. I mean, again, many other communities have this. Maybe that helps retain some employees because our COLA is now at 14,000 base. So, but it is, we will have to come up with a few bucks next year to balance our operating budget. So in our 300 million operating budget, we've got to come up with 600,000 more.
All right, thank you. Councilors, any other questions, statements? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve and send it to the full council with favor recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you. We now move on to the next item. Thank you, Ms. Rizzo and the entire team. Hope you guys have a good night. We move on to item 320-22, City Parking Management Service Contract, Cesarina Burgos from DPW. And we have Director Jorge Jaime here, who's going to be presenting.
Good evening, councilors. Jorge Jaime, 200 Common Street, Public Works Director. So as you know, we are in the process now to go back to the parking system. And based on the solicitation process and the proposals received, it was determined that 3 proposers are responsible and responsive and met the qualifying criteria and scope of service qualifications. The 3 proposals score similar in the overall, but the 3 meet overall qualifications, technical abilities, and previous experience by the review committee of Mark Ianello, Chief Administrative and Finance Officer, David Rodriguez, Parking Supervisor, Giovanni Martes, Chief of Staff, and myself, Jorge Jaime, as Public Works Directors, find parking concepts, or PCI, to be more advantageous based on their warranty payment to the city of Lawrence. The review committee is recommending that PCI be awarded to the contract to serve as the parking management vendor for the next 5 years. The contract will also need to be approved by the city council before final execution. So I know that you probably will have a lot of questions about this company. That's why we have tonight Brian and Jack. They're here present with us representing PSI tonight, so to respond to all those questions that you may have tonight.
Director Jaime, is today just for presentation, or are you looking for a vote on the contract or on this motion?
So we do not have a contract design yet. We're just looking for you to review the proposals and ask the questions that you may have, and then you can, get to know how, we selected this company to be our vendor for the parking management.
Okay, great. Director Jaime, before we bring up folks from Parking Concepts, can you just repeat the reasons why you felt that they were sort of the best? Why are you recommending them as opposed to some of the others? I think there's a lot of information that was given to us, and thank you. I don't think that all of us have had the opportunity to review all the documents. I think we reviewed the document that was sent in maybe Monday, where there is a table from the different, like a very, very short, sort of like one-sentence summary on the different companies that bid. I know that there were some council members that were asking time to review, sort of everything else. So I think what's great to know now is that you're essentially, doing this presentation so that we're aware and that we have information, and you're not looking for a vote from us. But if you could just begin with explaining to us why your committee chose parking management services.
Okay, so, oh, yes.
This is the one sentence reason right here, if you have it in your packet. Yeah, right there. That's the.
Yeah,
Just read the notes.
our purchasing agent, Janovi, so put it here for you. So we highly recommending PCI based on the highly advantageous rating from the majority of the committee members, and great recommendations received from other cities. So we took our time to call other cities and towns to see, to give us information about this company, and the promise that this company, is hiring local to create jobs in the city of Lawrence. That was the only one who proposed that, and in addition to that, it's gonna give us a warranty payment of $1.2 million plus 70% if the collections are over 2 million, 1.25. I know Genovi, yeah.
That's in this document, it's in your packet. It's a memo from Genovi, Martinez, the purchasing agent. So the notes column is what Jorge is talking about. That shows why we, in a nutshell, why we chose them.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Council President.
In the packet, I see LAS, I see Republic Parking.
Sure, so let me help members. So there are two packets. So there's packet number 1, which is the original document that we received on, whenever Teresa first sent it, which is in our white binder, and it is page 3 in that document. So page 3 in that document is what, yep, that same one, is what Director Jaime is speaking about. So I think that, so essentially he's, it sounds like, Director Jaime, that the one reason why you guys are choosing this over all the other ones is the guaranteed payment. Are there other reasons?
Yeah, there were a number of these. This is in a nutshell, though. It was all the proposals were ranked highly advantageous, and so on. This one received the highest rating from the committee members, highly advantageous, and that's what Genevieve writing in her note. And also, they had the highest guaranteed payment. If you notice down Republic Parking, the next one was Republic Parking. They had the lowest guaranteed payment, although it was a well-written proposal. And in LAZ Parking, they had the second highest rated proposal based on price and quotes, but their guaranteed payment was $500,000 versus $1.2 million. So we chose the $1.2 million guaranteed.
Councilors, do you have any questions? Director Jaime, so through regarding PCI, so you mentioned that they'll be hiring local. Can you talk us through that process?
So,
Like how many employees are we looking at?
so that's a good, that's a question that I think one of you can. Name and address for the record.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Jack Skelton. I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I'm one of the principals and owners of PCI Municipal Services, and honored to be here tonight. To speak to our hiring of local, first of all, I want to set the table by saying our company only works with municipalities. It is our specialty. So we work with cities across the country to help cities properly manage their on-street and off-street parking programs. And Brian Kern, who is also an owner and principal of the company, is here tonight. Together, we have 60 years of experience of working in this field. And over our tenure in the industry, we've learned that it's extremely valuable to have local people on our team as employees that understand the community, that understand, can make recommendations. We like to call our employees ambassadors to the cities that we work, and they can give directions, information, be of assistance to the public, but also have the proper empathy and be able to assist. We understand here, being bilingual, as most of the residents are, we want to have a staff that also can communicate effectively and properly assist people. So our goal will be, as soon as an award is official, we already have some people that we are talking to, but we'll have job fairs, we'll leverage local resources like the community college and Mass Hire to find local residents to be a part of our team.
Great. Can you talk to us a little bit about the type of machinery that you're going to be using?
Yes, sir. Part of the program and the financial offer is that we'll be funding all of the technology for the parking program, and one of the key components will be the payment kiosks. And for us, the kiosks have to be very easy for the public to use. We do not want frustration. In that regard, there has to be proper signage. It needs to be multilingual, both in Spanish and English, so that people can understand how to use the equipment. In addition to the machines, they will also be able to use their phone to make payments. And we'll make it very easy. They can simply scan a QR code, and it will take them to a payment screen, and they can purchase the amount of parking that they would like to have. I think everyone during COVID got used to the restaurants with the QR code, so most of the public understands how to use that service. So in total, the public will have 4 different ways to pay. They'll be able to pay at the machine with a credit card or with coins, if they choose to use coins. They'll also be able to use the mobile phone to make a payment. And then the fourth way, which we think is attractive for your community, is the ability for businesses that choose to do so to validate the parking of their customers. So they will be able, if they want to, for example, a restaurant would like to pay for their guest parking, they will be able to do that from a phone or a tablet inside their business. So again, we're trying to make it very simple, very easy for people to pay. The goal is compliance, people to turn over the spaces, right? I know your businesses would like to see more movement on the street, more parking available for their customers. And so by having easy ways to pay and good enforcement, we can make that happen and help those businesses drive more customers in their doors.
Great. So you mentioned one of the forms of payments you said over the phone. Is that like an app?
We actually prefer a non-app. So you can either text a code and it will send back a payment screen to your phone, or you can simply scan a QR code and that will start the payment process. One of the challenges of only having an app is they have to download the app on their phone. If you're like me, you probably already have too many apps on your phone and you don't want to manage another one. And it also is there's better privacy options if you don't have an app on your phone. You can simply scan a QR code and your personal information is buffered.
Can you talk to, so it would be, I think the QR code, I think that there are certain, parts of our community that, will see the QR code and they'll know exactly what to do. Sure. And I think that there are other parts that will probably need some type of training and for there to be some type of education on that. What type of efforts would you guys be planning on doing?
You touched on a very key point. You have to roll these programs out properly. There has to be great communication. One thing that we like to do is have an open house where we can bring in machines and have people to show them how to use the mobile payment options. We'll plan to visit with the businesses on all of the streets within the meter program and educate them on the equipment because sometimes they will be asked for assistance. We will also have a custom website for parking built for the city that will have instructional videos, both in English and in Spanish, that it shows them how to use the equipment. And lastly, we'll also have a phone number, a free phone number, posted on every one of the machines. If they need any help, they can call 24 hours a day, and they will be able to receive support in Spanish or in English. So we're really focused on making the payment part as easy as possible and eliminate those frustrations that could come.
Thank you. So, I think that my follow-up, you were just touching base on it as far as the customer call center. You said that is both English and Spanish?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is the usual waiting time when someone's calling in?
The call response time is under 30 seconds.
Okay. My next question is around, you began the discussion around sort of employees. I know that as part of your document, there are, besides the employees that are walking around the streets and doing the ticketing or checking for that, there's also, it says parking clerk, supervisor, project manager. So if you can just talk to us, which of these positions are they all positions that are within your company, or some of these positions from the city?
Since the program is restarting, our plan is to hire everyone local. We know a lot of the employees that used to be a part of the parking program have an interest of coming back. That would be wonderful because they already have an understanding of the job responsibilities and the requirements. So that would be our goal. As you may know from the RFP, we will be renting an office in the lower level of this building, and that's where we will have our manager, a supervisor, and our clerk that will be monitoring the program, supporting the program. We'll have a qualified maintenance technician that will be maintaining the machines. Very important that the machines work. I know historically there's been an issue with the machines not being reliable. The machines that we have selected are very easy to repair. And we'll maintain an inventory of spare parts here. So if there is an issue with one of the machines, they will be able to repair it quickly. I'd like to also add that in today's job market, Brian and I know very well that you have to pay a good wage, not only to attract quality people, but to keep them. And part of our philosophy is incentivizing them for good work, for doing well, for writing accurate citations, for engaging with the public in a positive way. Everyone makes mistakes, but one of our roles as owners is to monitor everything that's going on. And we'll also provide the city access to a business intelligence platform where you will be able to see in real time the occupancy of your meters, what streets have available parking at any given time, how much revenue is being generated from which meters. Is it credit card? Is it coin? Are people using the mobile app? Are we receiving validation payments from the businesses? And then likewise, on the citation side, you will have visibility on the citations that are issued, where they're issued within the city. One of the things we always want to focus on is equality. We want to make sure we're equally enforcing all of the areas within the city, because the goal is compliance, and we don't want to have anyone feel like they're being targeted. So if we can provide the data to city staff and as well as to the council, then when you receive a phone call from or a walk-in from a resident, you will have the information available to you, so you can see and better have a communication. That's one of our goals, is complete transparency with our efforts.
Thank you. I do have a couple more questions for Director Jaime, but before you step off the mic, I just want to see if my colleagues have any questions for you. All right, well, Council President Mark LaPlante.
To give the courtesy to my colleagues first. Thank you. The residents who, once this plan is unveiled and begins, what changes will residents see or be impacted the next time they go out and they see the meter they have to do? What will, I heard about the payment method, that will change. Is there anything else that will change in the experience besides that? Perhaps the footprint, are we increasing the number of meters in the city, or are we still keeping the same footprint where the meters are currently existing?
So as you know today, all the meters from the old program have been removed, and there was approximately 996 spaces in the old program. The RFP calls for those spaces plus an additional 1,700 spaces to expand the footprint of the program.
Do we have a map of where that footprint is?
Yes, sir. I have one here. It's a small one I can share, or. Oh, sorry.
So yes, we can provide you with a map, so we can make copies for you, you can see, but in the RFP copy that you have there, it explains, you know, all the streets that we're gonna be covering
What page?
with this program. So the page is 15.
Not page 15. No, we do have that. There was, you might not have it, Mark, because technically you're not in our committee. So look for this, okay? Oh, okay, so it was it an email sent out, maybe? Okay. So, okay, well, that's not good, right? That's why I think it's important for folks to get all these materials to us. Director Jaime, if you can tell me again what page and I'll have Maria make copies of that particular page.
So my page is page 15. I don't know if you have that one.
No. Yeah. So I think that the document that you have in front of us, Director Jaime, we do not have. I do have their proposal, which is what was printed off for me. But that particular document, I don't know. This is in your email. Yeah. A paper copy. Okay. Well, we'll just wait until. Council President, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So the answer here is in my hands, which is it seems like the biggest impact for a resident, if and when this is approved, is that they will see new meters in new areas that they have not seen before. Let me ask about the prices. Are those different than the prices in the past, or are those the same prices as in the past?
So are you referring to the rate that the citizens would pay for parking?
That is correct.
The rates are the same. They're $1 an hour for the on-street parking.
And the limitations, how long can someone park? That's 4 hours, that's how long?
That would be based on the city ordinances that have been approved by the council.
In the metered sections, remind me, I've not looked at this in quite some time. Are there restrictions where there are meters? Remind me, because I just don't recall. I guess 6th Street. I know South Union Street. Here's a crazy thing. We have spent a lot of time on South Union Street, putting 15 minutes here, 20 minutes here, hour here. Are we going to, so are those the limitations, for example, on South Union Street?
Councilor, the main reason for those businesses asking for 15 minutes, 20 minutes parking in front of their places is because the clients cannot find a space to park. I remember when we came with this program in front of the mayor, after we spent a couple of days, me, myself, Davey, and the city engineer. So he was worried about why we're covering more areas, new areas now, and he took his phone and he picked like a business. Oh, let's call a business in South Union. Let's see how they feel about having a parking mirror in that area, and we were all surprised. So I remember back in the days when we were talking about meters here, everybody was angry about it, so nobody wants, the parking meters in front of the places. Now they are hungry to have a parking meter, because you can come here to City Hall to pay the water bill, and you can go 10 times around trying to find a spot to park. And businesses are coming in, every day, asking when are you bringing back the parking meters. And definitely we are surprised how, the perception changed about the parking meters. So now they are willing to have parking meters in.
So I get that. The question is, if this council does not change any ordinances, does if there's 15-minute parking on this section and then 30 minutes on this one, and an hour over here, I guess it's a matter of enforcement. It's going to be very difficult for the people who are doing the enforcement. No, that's the 15, that's the 20, and it's because they're just all over the place. So my thinking is, I'm going to ask a leading question through you, Mr. Chairman, which is, are you encouraging, is it the recommendation of the executive branch to perhaps remove the ordinances that are on there because because of the free market system, no one's gonna wanna park there for 6 hours and pay whatever the dollar amount is?
Yeah, so that was a conversation that we had today, so we're probably gonna be in front of you, once you approve, if you approve the contract with these companies, we're gonna be in front of you, deleting some ordinances, because I remember some of the 15 minutes approved on Broadway Street, I remember Giovanni or Estela saying, oh, that's gonna be temporary because the parking, system is coming. And definitely, we don't need 15, minutes in front of a business on Broadway Street if we have parking meters all around.
I'll stop there, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
I think, one question on the map. On Broadway Street on the north side is, maybe it's just me, but I thought that the former meters were extended past Haverhill Street. Like, I recall there being meters past Haverhill Street.
Yes, now we are, let's call this as, we're just trying to cover all the businesses where locations where there is more businesses, where people are desperate to find a parking spot. If you drive down Broadway heading north, you're gonna find a lot of apartments over there. And people, I know, they used to complain that there is not too many businesses, like after you pass Haverhill Street.
I would disagree, Director Jaime. I mean, when you go past that, yeah, there's tons of sort of like the mill buildings, and there's housing units there, but that also means that they're taking up parking on Broadway Street. I know that it's, when I go to those I'll give a plug to Tacos Lupita. It is very rare to find on-street parking during the day. So like and I know in the past, all those areas were metered. So I think, I can't remember where the meter stopped, but I'm pretty sure that there was metered at least up to Santander Bank.
So I don't remember how far we went there, but so when we were looking at the area, so if you look at CVS there, they have plenty of parking spaces, okay? And then they were complaining that people just trying to not to use the meters, they just go into their places over there. But if you go to the plaza that is before pass across street, there is plenty of parking spaces in their place. And every business after you pass Haverhill Street, you're gonna find that they have plenty of spaces by themselves. So we used to see that like a desert. Nobody used to use the meter in that area. That's why we took that in consideration.
Well, I mean, and that makes total sense, but if we're gonna do that, then we might as well take out like half of South Broadway. Because there's definitely a lot of areas in South Broadway that there's a Walgreens in South Broadway. I'm sure, like I'm sure that's an issue. I think that issue will be presented regardless. Anyone that has, a lot of parking is gonna find certain folks that are gonna go in there. If they're towing and they have signs saying that they'll tow, I'm sure people will likely not do that. But I do think that I find that there are more parking issues on the north side of Broadway than there are on the south side of Broadway. I think Union Street is always packed. But if I were to look at, if I was thinking about where are there more parking issues on Broadway Street, I definitely think it's on the north side. I definitely think it's basically, it's up to, Councilor Rosario, did you say Park Street? Up Park Street. So I think that you guys, before presenting us a contract, you guys should relook at that section and include that in there, because
Absolutely. I don't know how that is gonna affect the process right now, so adding more, but we're gonna be happy, to cover more. If we can call this phase one, it's okay, but I think there'll be more requests in the future for, other areas to be covered by meters. But
Sure.
definitely, we are happy to go and cover that area at any time.
Yeah, and since the contract is not before us, I think you guys have the opportunity for not to have a phase, at least with this, a phase two, to just include it in that phase one. But Councilor Rosario had some questions.
Thank you to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Director
can do
Hammond,
that.
when you record Giovanni saying that those temporary, it's because those requests was my request on Broadway, and it was outside, or right next to Taculupita, and I remember exactly there was a meter right there, and one across the street, and I think it's 530, but the building of Danielito's building, right outside. I remember there was 2 meters there. The meters they used to go all the way up to Park Street, and then from there was no meters. I'm looking at, I want to believe that whatever the assets that they did, picking the streets, was great, but again, I'm seeing streets that they're not even in my district, but Lowell Street from Lawrence to Broadway, there's just a gas station and the police station between that and the housing on the other side. There's no business in that street right there. Lowell from, I might be mistaken, Lowell from Lawrence Street to Broadway, there's no business in that spot. Police station, fire department, Northern Nexus, it's not in Lowell, not anymore. It's on the other side. It's on Common Street. Just briefing like that, and it cut my eyes. Again, Lowell Street from Lawrence to Broadway. I can count what is there. The police station, the new 5-star bus company, whatever it is, and then you have the housing across the street from the post office, and then comes Walgreens and the pizza place, and that's Broadway right there. And I haven't checked the whole thing, but I think that we need to honestly revise a little bit. I don't want to hold on the project. I know a lot of people and a lot of business owners want this. As me as was put in those 15 minutes parkings, they were asking when the meters are coming back up. But I'm seeing streets that actually don't need it, and some streets that need it more, so we need to reassess this, I think.
So we have to understand that when we install meters in all others, like let's say let's forget about Lower Street. If we do not install meters there, that's gonna push everybody to go to that area, and then we're gonna create an issue there. So we have to understand that installing the meters is gonna push people, trying just not to park in the meter area, and then they're gonna go to Lower Street, and we're gonna be here again, trying to solve an issue on Lower Street. That's gonna happen, I can see it.
Well, Director Jaime, I think to Councilor Rosario's point, I think he's not necessarily saying don't put meters on Lowell Street. I think what he's trying to say is that as part of your presentation to us, you said that the reasoning why you're not going past Haverhill Street is because you do not think that there's going to be a lot of businesses there and that there's no need for parking. But he's mentioned Lowell Street because there's maybe like 1 business there, 2 business there. So like the need for having the parking meters there is a whole lot less. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. An argument could also be made that, folks might be parking a little farther than Haverhill Street. And I guess I hope that what you're hearing from a concern from us is, as Councilor De Rosario, that's his district. And, that used to be my district. So I think we're pretty connected to the businesses that are there. And I would say that I think that if you went around and you started asking these businesses, a lot of the ones that are looking for people to come in and out are going to want parking meters. So I hope that before you come back and you present the contract, that you include the rest of Broadway, until Park.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions, Council President Mark LaPlante?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Merrimack Street, it's not on there. Is there a reason? There's a lot of businesses on Merrimack Street. Why is that omitted?
So right now, there'll be streets that are definitely gonna be missing. So if we put Merrimack, probably gonna be asking about others. Definitely, we presented a plan in front of you So we were considering just covering downtown. That's why you see all the streets in downtown. So when we choose not to pick Broadway after Haverhill, so we consider that that was not like part of the downtown area. And I think we are able to correct that and go and add it to the area. So that happens with Merrimack Street. There is a lot of ordinance on Merrimack Street, a lot of ordinance, and we had to work on that. So we had to see how it works in the south side of the city, and then we can cover more areas, definitely. So, but we want to start with the two principal roads that we have there.
Mr. Chairman, so earlier you mentioned a tier 1 and tier 2. We were about to vote.
No, I'm mentioning because I see Councilor Payano and the Rosario asking about like certain streets that were not covered, or maybe the other ones that probably we don't have to put meters there. So probably we can call this phase 1, because probably we're gonna add some more streets in the future. So, but definitely it's not called like that. I'm just giving you an idea. If you like the program, so probably we can expand the area to put more meters.
Go ahead,
I
Council
do
President.
want to hear from the principals. Maybe he's got something to add to the conversation.
To address the issue of flexibility, I think we could easily craft a contract that would allow the city to adjust the meter streets and add meters here and move them from one area to another. I think that would be very easy to accommodate within a contract.
I just wanted to point out for everyone's edification, when we put the RFP out, we said we're gonna do X number of spaces. If we reduce those spaces, we're not gonna get the same guaranteed payment. If we increase those spaces, hey, maybe we can get a little more, and I think that's what he's referring to. We can probably negotiate the spaces. But I just want to caution everybody, we don't want to remove too many spaces, we'll lose our guaranteed payment.
I'll make a last comment, and then I'll thank you, Mr. Chairman, for all your patience and your allowing me to speak this evening, which is Merrimack Street. I'm very, very territorial and parochial. That's part of my district, and the reasons why we've had so many changes on Merrimack Street with respect to the ordinances, I think I've gone through 3 or 4 iterations of trying to figure out, is it 20 minutes, is it 2 hours, is it resident parking, is it non-resident parking overnight but during the day? I have personally put myself into a pretzel to try to figure out a way to find the right answer for Merrimack Street, and it's always coming back to enforcement. And the beauty behind meters is that there is almost automatic enforcement. I don't have to rely on the police department to have to, or whoever it is, to come over and doing that. And that's the attractiveness, especially on Merrimack Street. Out of all, South Union is clearly a big street in my district. It's a business area. That clearly is one. But Merrimack Street, for God's sake, that's got to be looked at sooner rather than later. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. So what is your name again?
Jack Skelton.
Skelton?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Skelton, so I think what the counselors and myself, the areas that we're talking about are areas that are high-traffic areas, areas where there'll be a lot of individuals coming in for, I mentioned Tacos Lupita because it's literally, you go in for like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and you come out. So I think that those are areas, I think none of us are talking about, at least from hearing from discussions, about this decreasing space. We're talking about increasing in areas where there are high traffic, not like, there's certain areas where we could probably argue that there's not gonna be tons of people there, it is what it is, but the areas that we're talking about, we definitely see, we believe that there's gonna be a lot of folks. So hopefully, if you're awarded the contract, it sounds like this is the direction that they're going, is being presented to us, is something that, basically has those areas attached to it. And I think it's important, Director Jaime, for that to be included in the contract, because I think what we're going to have is a lot of counselors that have dealt with these areas, especially like, during COVID, like while we haven't had the parking meeting situation, I think all of us counselors have had to deal with businesses sort of asking us, like, kind of what's going on, what can we do? So I can foresee there being a lot of questions and anxiety about approving a contract that is a part contract, and then, you know, at some time in the future, there might be addendums. I think it is best that if we come together and figure that out before it's presented to us.
I agree, Chairman, so we can work on that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
thank you, yes.
Councilor Levy?
So when you were talking about like later on that we can add more parking, so see, this is a 5-year contract. We're going to be able to add it on this 5-year contract, or that's after?
So no, we are, and I would like Mark to answer that, but I would like to tell you that we are, you know, working with the spaces. We can ever, you know, what we have to guarantee is the number of spaces, you know, in this contract. So,
Yeah, I just want to comment on the reason why we're in front of the council is we were looking for a 5-year contract because the PCI is coming up with the money to they're going to install the meters. And if we can only do a 3-year contract without the council's approval. And if they could only, if they had to recover their cost of the meters within a 3-year period, we get a much reduced guaranteed payment. So a 5-year deal lets them stretch out the acquisition of those, the cost of those meters over a 5-year contract period, and that's what the bid is on. So it's assuming we're gonna get a 5-year bid. If we don't get a 5-year contract, you know, we'll have to renegotiate something else. So that's what we're looking for, permission with the council to enter into a 5-year agreement for these parking meters. That makes sense.
I'm sorry, Councilor Levy, you have the floor.
Yes, so how many meters we are going to install? We said in here that we're going to be adding 1,779, but what is the total of meters that is going to be installed?
Approximately 225 machines.
200, and so if we start adding all of the requests that so you have to look at again on the contract to add all of this, and
So essentially, the question was, if you're adding, you know, basically from Haverhill to Park Street on Broadway, and you're adding whatever section of Merrimack Street it is, does that mean that you have to increase the number of
increase
machines?
in yes.
Most likely. And the way the RFP was structured is our firm would be paying a guaranteed $1.2 million a year, but we would also be sharing in the revenues over $2.85 million. So if the city decided to add more meters that generated more revenue, the revenue that we would retain, the 30%, would cover the cost if, let's say, you wanted to add 50 more meters. That would work in the financial equation. So there's a lot of flexibility and very intelligent how the city has put out the RFP, because it gives you that flexibility and it makes it a workable solution both for the city and for the operator on a go-forward basis.
So I think so that it could be much better if you add or try to figure it out how much is going to be the cost, you know, for the city and for you to add all this meter that right now, or how many more meter we're going to be needing in the city before we can go forward with this contract.
I would suggest we come up with a final plan, and then we can tell you exactly how many meters we would recommend to install, and if that works within the current proposal.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. And just, this is a question for Mr. Iannello and Director Jaime. So just to be clear, today you're not asking for, this is just a presentation. Today you're not asking for approval of entering a 5-year
I
contract.
guess it'd be nice if we had approval to
Right.
get the 5, because in other words, the purchasing agent has to get the contract ready. It's a city's boilerplate contract, and then I'm sure PCI has some things, and it has to just get into the contract. But that's what we're looking for, is the permission to enter into a 5-year agreement. If it doesn't happen tonight, needing more information, we need to, you know, come back at the next.
So what I would say, and again, I only speak for myself, I don't know whether the rest of the council is, I feel like before I were to take a vote on a 5-year contract, I would need to see the contract in front of me. That's my own personal view. That being said, are there any other questions?
I got a pro,
Go ahead, Council President.
what I'm hearing is that this is approval to go forward to engage in a 5-year contract. Once there's an agreement with the vendor on the 5-year contract, is that contract coming back for us for final ratification? Or
No.
once we say 5 years, you're good, we're not seeing this again?
Yeah, I just want
This is
to be
it.
clear. Basically, the contract is included in the RFP, so the vendor knows what the contract looks like. It's a blank copy of the contract, but it's all the contract terms. So I don't know if you have the entire RFP, but the contract is in there that we're going to enter into. The final it's not signed, but it's in there.
So what I'll say,
so
Mr.
that's our
Ianello,
process.
I think I'm the only one because it was sent to us today, so I'm the only one that has a physical copy.
But no, just the process is, when we do an RFP, we tell the vendor, hey, here's the contract we expect you to sign if you're the successful bidder. So everybody knows what the contract looks like, and they can start looking at things that they don't like in the contract and so on. And that'll be the final contract. So when we need permission from the council to enter into a 5-year contract, and once we get that permission, we would actually get the contract, but the contract isn't signed by the city council. We just need your approval to enter into a contract, and then the mayor will sign the contract.
So, Council, just for process, I think we've had a great presentation. I think we were able to ask a lot of questions. I personally think that it'd be important before we send this up to the full council for there to be a contract in front of us, and that would give time for DPW and Parking Concepts to come together and add those 2 streets into that area. So if there is an interest in the council to going that approach, is there a motion to table?
Second.
So Council Levy's made a motion to table. Is there a second? There isn't a second. So councilors, what is your motion?
Mr. Chairman, I just feel a little weird. I'm a kind of a guest. I don't want to overrun committee, so if there's not ample support for tabling, I'm not going to support it, but if there is, then I would, of course. But your logic makes a lot of sense to me, Mr. Chairman. I see where your direction, get the work done here, get the stuff done here. My only question is, if we waited an additional, 2 weeks and delayed this whole process, what does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, when I first saw this was on the agenda, the first thought that crossed my mind is, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars have we lost in the last X number of years? And I'm just wondering, if we delay, is this a matter of losing money because we're not getting involved? Just talk to me about what it costs for a delay.
I don't think we have, we do not have an issue with that. So the community is asking for this, the businesses are, in need of this system, and even City Hall here. People are not able to park around this building anymore to pay taxes and pay water. So we can go and add the streets that you are asking us to add. We no problems. I think I agree with all of you. We should add those, and we don't have any problem with that. But delaying this is not gonna affect myself or them. It's gonna continue affecting the community around downtown area, around City Hall, and the businesses that are waiting for us.
I'm thinking more than that, Mr. Chairman. I'm thinking, we were bringing in how much money through the old contract? How much money were we getting a week?
This contract is proposing $1.2 million per year, so that's $100,000 a month. That each month that we don't
That's right.
initiate the contract.
So my point is, the longer we wait, the longer it takes for us to get that money, and I just want to throw that out there. I'm not saying that's a reason why we should rush it, but we should factor it, right? So I just throw that out there.
Thank you, Council President. But what I would say is it important for us to get it right. And I think that there's a lot of questions that one of the members that from this committee, what they had requested, that if this was a I wasn't sure if this was a presentation or if you were asking for a vote, but Councilor Rodriguez did ask me to ask the committee that if this was for a vote, if this could be tabled, so that way he'd be able to participate in the discussion. But outside of that, I think that my personal view, and again, this is just my personal view, councilors can decide to do whatever they would like. I feel, I don't feel comfortable voting on anything unless I'm seeing the language in front of me. I did have an opportunity to peruse the proposal, the proposal that I received today, but I'll be honest, it wasn't sufficient time for me to go through 58 pages. So that's why I personally, if the question is to move this to the council, I personally do not feel comfortable voting in favor of that. Not that I disagree with everything that I'm hearing. It sounds like, from the presentation, this sounds great. It sounds like we're gonna find common grounds on those two other streets, and, you know, we'll be working, moving forward in that. But that's my personal view. Councilors, if there's a,
Yes,
Uh,
Mr. Chair.
hold on, Councilor Rosario?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. What I'm afraid of is that we postpone this or we table this, and then our colleague comes in and he wants to add 10 more streets or 5 more streets, 2 more streets that is in this district. And then we're gonna keep dragging. Nothing against it. I mean, the more we add, the more revenue we'll make, but it's gonna prolong the process. Because right now, me looking at it, I check a street and I wasn't agreeing with the street, and then President LaPlante said, why they don't do my street? And then another council is gonna come out, so why don't we do this Pollito, crack chicken part that a lot of people park there? And then we're gonna keep on the prolonged side. What I propose, and I'm gonna make an informal motion, is that send it to a full council as a community report, and by that time, if you are able to bring those added on Merriman Street, will be great. So this will be, instead of a motion, send it to the full council as a community report, requesting those adding parking space on the draft that we have here.
Is there a second? Since there is no, motion fails, since there is no second. Councilors, is there another motion?
Still, I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councilor Levy.
So how soon will be you able to bring to us, if we send it as a committee report to the full council, will you be able to present all of these requests to us by Tuesday?
Adding the streets, yes. So probably you want to bring a presentation about the machines, how they're gonna work, or that's gonna be in the future? Or just, okay, or you, but adding the streets, so I can work on that immediately.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I can add the streets and bring it in front of you on Tuesday.
So I
Problem with
think
that.
she's asking, will you have a full contract on Tuesday?
Absolutely, yeah. I can work on that. So the contract, as Mark said, is in the RFP. It's there, so Cesareena sent it to you, so the draft is there. So we're just gonna add the names and certain numbers, things like that, but it's gonna be the same.
Okay, so but the contract is right in here,
Yeah,
okay?
so
But we are asking for some more. So are we gonna be able to add and to bring in front us the full council, the information that we are requesting in here? And
Yes.
adding all of the street and, you know, how much is gonna be the cost and the times and when everything is gonna start and everything.
That's
So
easy.
see if we are able to get all this information by Tuesday.
Yes, absolutely, we can bring that to you.
You still have the floor, Councilor Levy.
I'm gonna second the motion made
So
by
you have to,
council.
you have to make the motion.
So motion to send it to the full council as a community report, expecting those documents in the new draft, adding the new, the streets on and also having the contract for us to see it on the next full city council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great, so we'll do a roll call vote. Council President LaPlante?
Yes.
Councilor Levy?
Yes.
Councilor De Rosario?
Yes.
And the chair votes no. Let's move on to the item.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for your
so much.
presentation. Item 324-22, ARPA funds application, St. Anne's Performance Center, Paramount Development Group Initiative, put on by Mayor Brian DePena. Hello,
evening,
sir. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Richard DeRosis, President of Paramount Development Group. Our address is 265 Franklin Street, Suite 1702, Boston, Mass. I'm here tonight to talk about St. Anne's Church. We're looking for stabilization funding. This is the first phase of the Performance Center. I've sent you some documents that for review. A little late, but did get them to you guys. Yeah, so the church is in disrepair. We've got falling bricks. We've got we need fencing. We need gutter repairs. Slate is falling off. We've got critical repairs that we need to make, hopefully before wintertime sets in. In order to do that, we've hired an architect, and we have some studies that are in these books that show exactly the work that needs to be done. We have a budget of approximately $1.4 million to do this work. We're requesting $1 million, and there is additional funding available from the state, but we'd like to get this funding first, and then hopefully the state money will come after that. We're requesting a loan, not a grant. We do have a way to fund this project. It's a much bigger project than the $1.4 million. It's more of a $18 million project, and we are planning on funding that with a series of different tax credits, historic, new markets, and other funding sources. We've been working on this project for a while. We've got architecturals, lead and asbestos study, feasibility study. We're working with the college, Northern Essex Community College. We expect them to be the principal owners when the project is completed, and they will add to their curriculum with new courses.
Anyone have any question? Councilor De Rosario?
Thank you, through you. And you say Northern Essex at the end of the day will be the owner of the project?
Yes.
So,
Managers, sorry.
I guess I was gonna say, if they the owners, why they don't invest their own money? That's what I was going. I was going that way. So they're gonna. It's still tricky. So we're gonna loan you the money, but somebody else is gonna manage it, which is Northern Essex Community College.
Yes, yeah. And as developers, we've spent a lot of money to bring this performance center to the city. We've been working on it for a while, and we are dedicated to this project, and this is something the city needs, so. No, this is not something we would normally invest in. We've done other projects in the city, and they've come out rather well. We've done Sacred Heart, we've done Blakely Building, we've done the expansion of the charter school, and this is the last phase of this Archdiocese campus.
Who's the owner of the building? Because I remember that somebody told me one time that he was given that building to the city for $1 if they put the performance center on his wife's names.
I'm not sure where that came from, but the owners are myself and my brother. We own 60% of the LLC, along with Raymond Cloutier. Raymond's also local, he owns the Woolworth Building.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Got a comment and then some questions. So first, the comment. There are many ethnic groups in the city that have things to celebrate. Holy Feast of the Three Saints for the Italians, St. Patrick's Day, we have Hispaniola Semana, and then various other days within our Latin community, our Spanish-speaking community. I'm of French-Canadian descent. This church was the church on the north side of the city for the French-Canadian community. Their Sacred Heart was the French church on the south side. This is a church this is a school that I went to when I was in 5th grade, before moving to St. Augustine's on the Tower Hill. This is where my parents got married, my grandparents got married, the baptisms. This church, I'm only saying all those things from a personal level because it's impactful, and what is happening now when I drive by that church, whenever I go by that church, which is frankly no longer a church, to be honest, it's sad, it's demoralizing, and it's very sad. I've got questions regarding what's going to be there, and I just feel like it's part of I'm going to be parochial here again this evening, part of my culture, but it's also part of the fabric of the city of Lawrence. It's not just because of who I am, but there's a lot of people like me that have contributed to the city. We may not, many of those folks, my family doesn't live, many of them live in Lawrence anymore. They've moved to other parts of the country, right?
Right.
But it's still an important part. It's a touchstone in our city, and there's a lot of touchstones for a variety of cultural reasons all across, from 100 years ago to the last 5 or 10 years to this point. Whenever this thing gets off the ground, when it gets off the ground, I would hope that there is something that speaks to that inside that, what used to be a church. We call it a church now. I don't think it really is a church, an auditorium, I guess. But something that speaks to that, to remember part of the ethnic contributions to make what's made this city a city of immigrants. So I just hope, that's my comment.
I couldn't agree more, and,
I'll go into my technical questions in a
we
second.
could have done housing there, but, I thought that, this building was paid for by, these previous immigrants that emigrated here from other countries, and, they worked hard to get their church and get it built, and it should have something that benefits the entire community, not just some people that are moving in for condos or something. You could do that in other parts of the city, This building should be restored just the way it is, and it should be a benefit to the city and everybody in the city.
Maybe a good moment for me to say a word here, if it's all right.
Oh, go ahead, Lane.
May I?
Yeah.
Lane Glenn, principal residence is in Amesbury, but here in Lawrence, president Northern Essex Community College, 45 Franklin Street. The college became involved in this project for the reasons that you just asked about, as a cultural center, right? As a multicultural center, because indeed, this is a city with lots of different cultures. The college has gotten involved in a number of different projects over the years where we have felt we could do some good for the city. That's the only reason we're involved here, right? We've gotten involved in building a health and technology center that trains most of the people in the hospitals around here. We've gotten involved in the police station project. We've gotten involved in taking down old dilapidated buildings and clearing spaces, those kinds of things. And not long after the college's name first appeared in a newspaper article about this project a few years ago, Elaine Barker, Haverhill, legendary, paper potpourri. Anyway, in Haverhill, she's involved. Elaine Barker, French-Canadian roots. I'm getting back to your question. Within a week of the college's name first landing in the newspaper, I received postcards from 100 years ago from the nuns that ran the church. Excited, not the same nuns, mind you, but the order, excited that this might actually be going somewhere to indeed honor the history and the culture of the French-Canadian order, but also of the residents since that time. The college and the city helped pay for the feasibility study to refresh it, to consult with a number of arts organizations that may be users of the space, and to put together a business plan for the operations. To be clear, the college will not own this building. When the developer is able to get the funds back that the developer has invested in this. The idea is the city will own this building, and the college will manage this building. There's a lot to be worked out in between now and then, a lot to be worked out. But that's the ambition, that's what's explained in the feasibility study. This is to stabilize things and to help the building be safe, secure, and get ready for the next stage of things. As you may be aware, Senator Barry Feingold has secured a couple $1 million in a bond bill waiting for this project to get off the ground. And this is the first step in getting the project off the ground so that we can go after that funding as well as the other sources of funding that will eventually turn into a building that the city can be proud of, not just for Lawrence, but regionally.
Madam Chair, if I could just continue this with, now that I got that off my chest a little bit, I just want to move on to something else. So, first of all, thank you so much, Madam Chair. In the very first paragraph, in the very first page, your name is on there as being instrumental in helping this project. So I just want to acknowledge you for being an important part of this book and this process going forward. So it's good to see. It's good to see one of our own taking a lead like you have on it. So my thanks to you. I don't know much about this, besides I just got this book tonight, so this is like brand new to me, so give me the Nichols summary if you don't mind. Your vision, what do you see happening there? How is this going to impact Laurentians? I know that the college is going to be impactful there, but can you talk to me about what's a Friday night going to be if I'm in the city of Lawrence and I want to go there, or Saturday or Tuesday afternoon? Just what does this mean? What's the vision? Talk, if you don't mind. Can you just kind of explain that to me?
So this is a multi-use center. We have 800 seats, but they are retractable. So you can have different size venues there. You could have matinees, movies that maybe you wouldn't see at a movie theater. You could have plays. You could have graduations. You could have a convention if you wanted. There are different uses, for the center. It's good for, local theater groups, regional theater groups, and maybe corporate events. But there's a number of different uses.
To the nuts and bolts, this is a loan from ARPA monies, about $2 million?
Well, actually, I had one correction. I guess the city is converting all the ARPA money to free cash. So this would be a loan from the city's, I think it's stabilization fund.
And what are the terms of that? When does the city get paid back for that? Is it a 10-year note, 20? What are we talking about for?
Well, we'd like to pay the city back when Senator Feingold releases the $2 million, and that money finally is, if not, it will come from the financing plan that we have, which is from the historic credits that we're using and the new markets credits. When those are allocated and those are syndicated, then this loan will be paid back.
Yeah.
I think you should. Good evening, councilors, chairman. I would like CAFO to speak to the question and a little more in detail tonight.
I handed out this evening a memo to the council indicating that the $1 million loan will be, the loan details would be negotiated with the developer, the interest rates, when it would be repaid. And of course, the city attorney will draft the agreement between the developer and the city for this $1 million. And in my memo, I indicated that this will be a transfer from our stabilization fund of $1 million. We have roughly $4.2 million in there now, and transfer to a special project account, which we would control until the details are worked out with and the contract is done between the city attorney and the developer before any funds are released. So that's pretty much what my memo says.
Councilors?
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Oh, Councilor Platt?
Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Chair. So as we go through this process, a loan, bond money comes in, city gets paid back, then there's work that needs to be done in the building. Is the work being started as soon as this money is released? Is that where it's trying to kind of
Yes, we're trying to
jumpstart
beat the cold weather. It's difficult to work, doing masonry and, using some of the sealants that we're going to use for gutters and stuff. It doesn't work well in low temperatures. It's just difficult.
And then, so when will this, if in your view, what's the time frame of, if this thing were to pass at the next city council meeting, we authorize it? What's the time frame?
Well, we'd hope to start work within a couple of weeks.
And completed when?
It would take us a couple of months to complete this work, possibly 3 months, but we will push for 2 months because of the weather.
And this is primarily, so if somebody wanted to do something there, they would have to go to the community college and then ask for permission or ask for, is that how that would work when this is complete? So who's the programming and all that stuff, is that coming through the college? Am I making sense of my question? Because I'm getting confused. So I'm saying that you're building it, you're operating, and when I say you, the college is operating it, so if there's anything coming, it's going to be the college's programs or authorization or permissions.
Some of that is to be determined, Counselor, because of course, the college would obviously be working closely with the city, which would end up owning this property at some point. There'd be a board undoubtedly that would end up operating the facility with the college, right? But in the short run, what's being asked for tonight is simply stabilization of the property, right? Seal it, fence it, sign it, light it, make it safe, right? Prepare it for the next stage of what's going to happen at that site.
That's a big point that was lost on me. We're owning this thing. Yes? I mean, we're going to own this?
There are details to be worked out in the future, but the college is not going to own it. The developer's intent, unless I'm misspeaking here, Rich, for the last time we talked about this, is to, get back what the developer has invested in this property and get it back to the city. It's one of the reasons that the college became interested in this in the first place when I first started speaking with Councilor Levy, because it seemed like this could be a real asset for the city.
I'm clear. So we're going to own this, Mr. Chairman. I guess eventually at some point, we're putting the money down and then we're going to own it, and then who decides? I'm sorry, you can tell by the questions that I'm asking that this is kind of all new to me. So who's going to be in charge, for lack of a better word, what's happening in that facility? Is that a college or the city?
No, the city, good evening. I didn't introduce myself, Octavian Spanner, 200 Common Street. I'm the senior advisor to the mayor. The intent is to form a partnership with different organizations with a level of expertise and competency to do to manage, to not only to supervise the operation of the Performing Arts Center. What I would like to add to what Mr. DeRosa's mentioned is that within the agreement that will be drafted by the city attorney, we'll make sure that immediately once the funding is released, that it would also include a timeline. So from start to finish. There is a timeline that has been submitted within the document as well. Sorry? For the entire project. So that is what basically we're going to follow, and we may add additional terms and condition in the agreement.
Sorry. Do we own this property right now? We don't own this right now. Who? And you, my colleague from District C asked the question, who owns it? And the answer is? Okay, the developer.
Richard DeRosa.
Got it. Mr. DeRosa owns it right now, and then
We
you're
own
going
it
to...
at the moment. When it's completed and
then
$18
we're
million
gonna
worth of work is done, then the city will have the option to own it, or we could set up a nonprofit and a board. This board members can be appointed by city council or the mayor's office, or whoever is, whatever seems appropriate.
Councilors, any other questions? Councilor Plant, there seems like there's no other questions, so if you'd like to continue. Again.
Chairman, I think I'm feeling pretty good about where this is going, at least at this point. There may be other questions that are going to come later, so I'm looking forward to a vote this evening, one way or the other, on this. there are more details that I think I'd like to explore, but I don't need to do it right now during the committee process, so.
To you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councilor Levy.
Like you expressed also, it's some sentimental for me. That is why when I spoke with Mr. De Rosa regarding this project, I just get engaged, on this. Because this church also was the first church for the Hispanic community given by our diocese. And so when we received the church and we made like the first mass in there, and we saw that, the church, it was so beautiful, and that represents for me a lot. So one of the things that I asked the priest at that time, for how long we're gonna have this church for the Hispanic community? He said forever. But it's very sad that maybe 2 or 3 years after, they say we need to close the church because there is no money to keep it, and we have to give it to somebody else. So, but when I met him, when I met Mr. De Rosa, and he said, he was the one who built the building, at 473, where I was working the Blakely building, and I see how beautiful is the building, and what he was able to do, and he said, I remember that we went over to the roof, and we were looking the city, and he was pointing me through the roof of that building, many other projects that he did in the city, and he said, that church that is over there is an M church. They go, yes, I know that very well, but it's closed right now, and it's very sad because right now the Hispanic community do not have a church. He said, well, I would like to do this kind of project as an architect and when I saw what he got in mind, and when I saw, the plans for this, I get extremely enjoyed, and happy that this one day can be built in the city of Lawrence. This is gonna bring a lot of joy. This is gonna bring, a lot of good things to the city. And it's gonna be a participation, not just only for the city, but also for the community around. So immediately, because Northern Essex is very close, I also spoke with Mr. Glenn, and he liked the idea. And he said, this is something that I'm also looking around to build something like this. So
the document that is in front of you is specifically about the stabilization of this building. As I mentioned earlier, the college, in partnership with the city, paid $30,000 for a refreshed feasibility study to Don Hirsch Consultants. They're an organization that works nationally on projects like this. So there's a business plan associated with a feasibility study that involved interviewing a number of arts organizations in the community and figuring out, to Councilor Levy's point, what would usage look like? You asked earlier, what does a Friday night in this space look like? I mean, it could look like lots of different things. It could look like a dance, a cultural event, a rented facility, a wedding, all sorts of different things could happen. It could look like the college's students performing in this space. It could look like the high school students performing in this space. But it would be a true community cultural center and a restored asset that has been a dilapidated wreck for a very long time.
Where in this packet is there the sort of the conversation you've had around the finances as to like how much you're asking? So can you repeat again how much you're asking for?
$1 million.
1 million, so one and a bunch of zeros.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I had budgeted, and you'll see it in this packet here, I'd asked for 1.4 million, but 1.4 million is not available right now, so if we had 1 million, we'll make that work.
So where does it say 1.4?
Sections 2 and 3 are the masonry, and there's a masonry proposal, section 2. Section 3 is gutters, slate, copper work, rubber roofing work.
Okay, so I see on section 2, it says that the preliminary price is 900.
Yeah, for section 2 for masonry. And then section 3 was the detailed, details of the gutter work, rubber roofing, slate work. And then in section 1, the second page of the summary was the total amount, which was $339,000 and $645 for this
I
stabilization.
understand. Also, as part of your presentation, you're saying that you expect to pay the city back. Can you repeat when you expect to pay the city back?
Yeah, we'd like the $2 million that was allocated from the state to be released, and from that $2 million, we would pay the city back $1 million, and we would continue on with stabilization.
So the state has already allocated $2 million for
Yes,
this
they have.
project? Okay,
Yeah, Senator Feingold was instrumental in allocating that.
great. And when, as far as you know, when do they plan on allocating that?
Well, I think Senator Feingold would like us to see us move forward with the stabilization project first, and when that's completed, then we could talk to him about the $2 million, having that released.
Okay, so when he releases the $2 million, I'm just, like, budget-wise, I'm just trying to figure out how you pay for this project, right? So, you know, we're giving out a loan of $1 million so you can stabilize this.
Yes.
It sounds like you're gonna use $1 million. Is this was it said, like, was there no interest loan?
It's an interest loan.
It's an interest loan. So you're gonna use $1 million plus out of the $2 million to pay for this loan, and then you're gonna use the rest to do what?
Well, we would probably, whatever we couldn't finish with the stabilization, because we got a budget of 1.3 something, we'd like to finish that up. And then we have some soft costs that we have to take care of. We've got applications to put in for historic credits, new markets credits. There's other work to be done. I don't think we'd use the whole thing. And once we had the entire $18 million secured, that would be back into the pot of money.
So it would be $18 million, or would it be $16 million?
Well, I guess it'd be a little bit less than $18 million, because we're already going to use.
Where does the rest of that money come from?
It comes from tax credits, historic tax credits, state and federal, new markets tax credits, which is another federal credit.
So all 16 million of that would be tax credits, say again, tax credits, what else?
Oh, I didn't hear what he said. Yeah, so we have.
So my question is, so what I'm hearing from you is that, like, $2 million, like, there's the
Was from the state,
interest
yeah.
loan from us, the
Yeah.
interest loan from us, but
Yeah.
in reality, it's $2 million is coming from the state,
Yes.
right? Outside of that,
Yeah,
there's
16
another $16 million that you
Yeah.
need in order to complete this project, but that, if you could repeat what you just said.
Yeah, that's from state and federal historic tax credits
So all 16 million
and
is
new
gonna,
markets tax credits, another federal program.
so all 16 million is gonna come from those tax credits?
Most of it. There's some other grants, too, that are national grants for historic buildings. We'd like to apply for those also. There's also grants from the state of Massachusetts. We'd like to apply to those. Mass Cultural Arts, I think it's called.
Is there anywhere in this booklet where I can see a budget of, even,
No,
I mean,
I could send you the pro forma for the entire project.
yeah, no, that would be great, because it sounds like, you know, we're essentially, so one, I remember we met years ago and we talked
Yes.
about this.
Yep.
I think I brought some of the other counselors along
Correct. Yep.
before this project was initiated. So I am glad that this is moving forward. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm as educated as possible.
Yes. Yep.
With the project.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
so if it's not in, I haven't seen this, you know, like, this
Yeah.
packet was presented to us today, so I haven't
Yep.
seen it. If that information is not on the packet, then I think it'd be great if you could send it to us. So that way we understand, so if we get a question as to how will this project, you know, how will the developers actually be able to do this project if you're looking at 16 million more, that we have that there. And so it sounds like once we do this loan, right, and it's approved, when do you get the money from the state that Senator Feingold secured?
Well, when the project is finished, of this first phase of stabilization from the city's loan, then we'll invite Senator Feingold for a tour of the property and show him the progress that we made, and then we'll ask him to release the, initially $1 million, and then whatever we think we need to finish it, 350,000, whatever that is, to finish what we wanted to do in this book here.
And that is, like Senator Feingold is aware of this plan, and this is,
He is aware of the plan. He has one of these books. So he's seen our architect's study for stabilization. And he's seen
so I guess, is he
he's seen the
aware
budget.
that essentially it sounds you're going to need the next 3 months to stabilize, the building, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're asking is for funds to be released at some point early next year. So my question is he aware that you're going to be asking for these funds to be released, early?
I believe he's aware of that.
So I'm only, he's, his district is changing, so I don't know if, how it changes things.
The mayor met with Senator Feingold over 2 months ago, almost 3 months ago, to talk about this project. And one of his concern was for us to be sure of the ownership, and also to have conversations with Northern Essex to see if they were still interested in participating as managers of the project, and indicated his willingness to work and release, to get the funds, basically.
And are we sure of the ownership now?
Yes.
Okay, and who will be the
The
owner?
information was provided to us, and we forwarded that to the city attorney's office.
Okay, no, but who will be the owner now?
The owner is,
Oh, okay, no, got it. No, I guess I'm wondering,
Right.
so it sounds like, so as far as the mayor's office, do you guys have an interest as to whether the owner of this project is the city, or is the owner of the like when this is completed, or the owner of the project is a nonprofit, or you haven't determined that, and it's sort of like, you'll see where this takes us?
no, the mayor indicated that he would like to see an organization as a nonprofit organization that would manage this. And we foresee or anticipate and making recommendations to the mayor to have different partners that are already involved and do have the expertise in this type of work in the performing arts.
Okay, great. Councilors, is there any other questions? Go ahead.
Councilor Piano, I just wanted to follow up on your question about Senator Feingold. I was in contact with his office last week just to verify the college's engagement and to let them know that we would be speaking to the project and in the not-too-distant future, seeking the release of the bond funds.
Great.
Just a quick point on that.
Go ahead, Councilor Plant.
I first want to hear from Director Spanner, and then I'll
Yes,
make my
I would
comment.
like to also mention that the mayor wanted all fees and expenses associated with the project to be paid back to the city. So, because the city right now, I know Mr. DeRosas has been cooperating with the city in terms of keeping it clean. We personally drove over to see the conditions. There's an urgency, like Mr. Lane Glenn said, that to stabilize the property. There's a concern in the neighborhood because people are still loitering and sleeping in the alley. They're picking up needles almost every day or every week, and we don't want any other incident or life-threatening situation happening at the property.
Councilor Plant.
So, through you, Mr. Chairman, so my only point is this, is that we're about to hit October in about a few days. My understanding is that there's a bond authorization bill that's probably already been adopted if this were passed, is my understanding. I don't know this for a fact, I'm new to this situation. And as I understand it as well, it's the administration that determines which of the bond authorization the administration is going to fund, as far as I understand how these bonds authorization works. I'm looking at the political calendar. We're in October. There's, as my colleague who's going to be in the state senate this just said, that, you know, things are changing. And the administration is definitely changing. And so, I'm just trying to calibrate the risk of this project if we're banking on the bond authors and going through when there's these moving pieces.
Yeah, well, the fallback plan is if this $2 million was somehow, they reneged on this $2 million that the state promised, this performance center, we would fund it through tax credits and other means.
But the project would take longer.
It would take longer to pay back the loan.
So that those tax credits are coming back in again, so the tax credits are paying for most of the 16 million, and then you're gonna need to get more tax credits to pay back the loan, so just a longer payback. Is that what I just heard? Is that, my understanding that
Yeah,
correctly?
it would take longer to pay it back.
That's a plan B, not a plan A, of course. That's plan B.
Plan B,
That's-
yes.
That's it, that's the,
Plan B.
if things go south or sideways, that's what's gonna happen. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Plant. Councilors, is there any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to send it to the full council with favor recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so much for
Hey,
being here for
councilors,
the
if
presentation.
you have any
Good luck.
questions, my phone number's in there, please call me. Always available to answer
If you could
questions.
please make sure that to send us the document I just requested.
And
Absolutely.
Tuesday is the next full council meeting too.
Yes, and for the committee chair, during the full council, we will also, I've already met with the city attorney. He will have a draft document for a contract with the developer to review.
I will say, Mr. Span, I didn't realize we didn't have that contract. But it is what it is. The vote already occurred, you know, as you're probably, the folks that have been in the city for the last 5 years usually know that, like, I don't vote on anything unless, like, I've read it and I've seen it. That's my usual, my usual stance. Is here, but it's great. So
Duly noted.
It's gonna be here on Tuesday. So it is what it is. It's already passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spanner.
Thank you.
Councilors, is there a motion to take out item out of tabled matters 285-22, allow the expenditure from Department of Energy Resources Green Communities Competitive Grant Program, energy conservation measures at City Hall and School for $199,996. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Seeing no second, that motion fails. Let's just wait a minute. Can you ask Councilor Levy to come back? So, councilors, I'm looking for a motion to take out item 285-22, allow the expenditure from Department of Energy Resources Green Communities Competitive Grant Program, energy conservation measures at City Hall and schools for $199,196, being brought to us by Mr. McCarthy. Is there a motion?
Motion to get the item out of table matter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Bush has been made in second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Roll call. Council President LaPlante?
Yes.
Councilor Levy?
Yes.
Councilor De Rosario? And the chair votes in affirmative, so that is being brought out of tabled matters. Mr. McCarthy, you have the floor. If you can just state your name and your title for the record.
Good evening, Daniel McCarthy. I am the City Planning Director. I was before you at the, 2 weeks ago, actually 4 weeks ago, with this project to expend funds that were given to the city as part of a competitive grant from the Department of Energy Resources, the Green Communities Program. So the city's been participating in this program since approximately 2019. We drafted the ordinance to participate in this back in 2017. It was adopted in 2018. At the last hearing, some requests were made for documents to provide some clarity on how determinations were made for the exercise of these programs and which schools or which buildings were delivered and how these the contracts were deliberated. I know a request was made to the procurement office, and they responded that they didn't have any records because this was done as through the grant program as part of the state's energy group, which provided us the contractors to select. The city at that time was a different administration. The first approximately $600,000 was given to the city in what was called a Designation Grant. When the city was adopted the designation as a green community, we were provided those funds, and those funds were used in a similar manner to what I'm asking today. They were given to specific schools. I provided you a package of the, which is the application for the green communities, which has a listing of all the schools that receive those benefits, which included Lawrence High School, the Potham School, the Gilmet School, South Lawrence East, the Frost School, and the Bruce School. All received funding as part of that program. 2 years ago, we were now a participant in the program, and we applied for what are called competitive grants. The competitive grants are given on a yearly basis. They're cyclical, which means they have deadlines in October and April for applications. So so last October we had put in, and in 2000, and we had an event at City Hall this year where Governor Baker presented a $199,000 check to be used. At that time, the school that was designated as a recipient was South Lawrence East, and the other building was Lawrence City Hall, which is going to receive some money as well to assist in the heating system at the Lawrence High School, the Lawrence City Hall. So those were the questions that arose, and I did want to provide some other documents. I know the chairman at the time raised a serious issue I was concerned about, that the Arlington School he had visited and had very serious problems with the air conditioning during a hot period. I did speak with the school department and the buildings, and they said those issues have been all fixed. That $3 million was invested into the Arlington School over the last 3 years to fix the air conditioning system, the heating system, put a new roof on, and that the situation that you described is no longer like that. So I just wanted to let the board, the commission know that. Again, the documents are before you. I can answer any questions on this. The program is fairly straightforward. These are electrical improvements to the South Lawrence East School that will fix that will upgrade the energy system. New thermostats, new couplers, new product like that. This isn't systematic changes to the school systems. These are improvements to the existing systems to save money, and that's what this program is for. It's not a program to improve our schools, it's a program for the city to save money. So I gave you some documents showing how this section was first devised on the energy saving, which is one of 5 parts. We also adjusted our ordinance to allow solar energy as a by right use. We've also made a commitment to convert to electric vehicles, and we upgraded our building code to the higher energy codes that the state requires. So this is a systematic program. It's not just a one-time event to fix the schools, but it is a program for the city to commit to becoming an energy-conserving community.
Councilors, any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve and send it to the full council with favor recommendation.
There's a motion to send this to the full council with favor recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made in second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Roll call vote. Council President LaPlante.
Yes.
Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor Rosario. And the chair votes affirmative.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. This will be at our next city council meeting,
I'll see you there.
Tuesday. Councilors, are there any items that you'd like to take out of tabled matters? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
There's a motion to adjourn by Councilor Rosario. It's been seconded by Councilor Levy. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.